Hello everyone, it is Joe here from OmniPoke, the channel that brings you guys everything Pokemon, and today we're looking at PTCGO for some Fates Collide decks because the set's been dropped and I've got my hands on a bunch of codes and a bunch of the new cards. Today we're looking at a deck based around the new Mew. Mew is, among one of the best cards in the set, very versatile, and I'm sure we're going to be seeing more different decks coming from Mew very shortly. Today it's going to be an updated build of Manectric Bats. It's been a deck that was quite popular earlier on in the season, before the release of Breakpoint, because before fighting Freebelt, this could hit really nice magic numbers. It's kind of slowed down a little bit lately. It struggled to deal with a bunch of matchups that it used to enjoy, and it used to be played heavily due to its strong Night March matchup, but because Night March gained so much from the last set, this deck has really struggled to survive, and today I'm thinking that Mew could be the chance to revive this deck because it gains a lot of speed, and now we can attack with the same sort of pressure that Manectric does, but with a non-EX attacker, which is pretty sweet. So let's go into the deck. We have 3 of the Mew as our main attacker, or, Manectric's the main attacker, but we use Mew to copy that attack. So Memories of Dawn is the ability. This Pokemon can use the attacks of any of your basic Pokemon in play, and you still need the necessary energy to attack. So we're going to copy. For the most part, it's going to be Manectric EX. We also have Miltank, which we can copy, even Shaymin if we really want to. We also have Mew's own attack, which is called Encounter. We get to search the deck for a Pokemon, reveal it, and put it into your hand. Pretty good stuff, because we are playing a stage 2 line. Sometimes if we don't have the right damage, or the damage is less relevant, or even if we just have a dead hand, we can go and grab ourselves a Shaymin EX, or if we feel like the bats are going to be the things that win us the game, we can grab high evolutions of the bat line for us. So Mew has a very handy attack, even if his ability is shut down in certain situations. Importantly, Mew is a psychic type, so this helps cover Manectric EX's weakness. His weakness to fighting is often... fighting types often have a weakness to psychic. Look at stuff like Lucario. So Mew is also not only great because he's 1 energy cheaper when we have Dimension Valley in play, but also he covers Manectric's weakness, which is great. Mew also has a free retreat cost, so oftentimes people will try to Hex Maniac to turn off our ability so we can't attack with the Mew, but we have free retreat so we can go into one of our other attackers. Pretty good stuff. Mew is a great front man, and really the difference that we see with this deck compared to the deck just a few months ago was turn 1, often we'd be doing Overrun with Manectric EX just for a 20 and 20 snipe. But now we can do the Manectric's second attack, Assault Laser, because the colourless cost of Dimension Valley can be paid, and then we just pay a single energy onto Mew to use the high pressure second attack, Assault Laser, for either 60 base or 120 if the opposing Pokemon has a tool attached. We do play Headringer in this deck, of course, like all the Manectric decks used to. So Mew can be pressuring 120 if we go second, which is pretty awesome. And yeah, that's one of the big differences from the deck now, because we have Mew. And we also have more non-EX attackers, and just in general, just committing 1 energy to a non-EX and doing this sort of damage is really good stuff. So we do still have 2 Manectric EX. Of course, we need to have Manectric EX on the bench so that we can use Mew's ability, but also we can attach onto Manectric himself and get him going, because he's still a pretty efficient and strong attacker on his own. Overrun for a single colourless does 20 and 20 to one of your opponent's bench. This combines very nicely with the bats against stuff like Vespiquen and Night March. This can also be very strong. Bear in mind, you can use that attack for free if we have Dimension Valley in play, which is pretty awesome. And we also have Assault Laser, the second attack. 60 plus 60 if the opposing active has a tool attached. Oftentimes, a lot of decks are using tools. Fury Belt, Muscle Band, Float Stone, even Bursting Balloon on some certain decks. So most decks are going to use tools, and either they don't play down the cards and they're doing less damage or having less HP, or they do play them down and play into our damage output. And of course, if people are choosing not to put down their tools and they are an EX Pokemon, we can hit them with Headringer down here to increase our own damage. So yeah, very good stuff. I think the 2 count is fine. We do have Super Rod to recover Manectrics if need be, but most of the time he's chilling on the bench these days, staying out of the fight, leaving it to Mew pretty much. We do have a single tech Miltank in here. Miltank offers a couple of nice purposes. Normally it's going to also chill on the bench. A single energy does 80 damage, which is more than the Manectric would do if they don't have a tool attached, as long as we have a stage 2 in play, which is pretty cool. Again, Miltank is a 1 energy attacker himself, so if we are being hit with Hex, we can at least attach to Miltank and get a cheeky 80 damage in there, which can be really relevant when you combine it with 120 that we can do in the following turns, or if we combine it with bat drops, we can do 80 and plus Crobat to kill something like a Shaymin EX. So Miltank is a really nice card in here. It's going to be an extra non-EX for these non-EX matchups, like Night March, and it's also something that you can copy, again, for 0 energy. We can copy Powerful Friends as long as D-Valley's in play, or just a single energy if we don't have D-Valley, so pretty good stuff overall. We are also playing 2 Shaymin EX. Shaymin's going to help set up, as the ability would suggest. We all know why these are in the deck at this point, basically. Yeah, good stuff. D-Valley plus Lightning means we can even Sky Return if we want to with Mew, but it's going to be very rare that you do that because we have so many better attacks to use. So yeah, it's an option, but one that you'll rarely take. So onto the bat line. Bat lines previously have been a little bit thicker than this. We've seen 4-4-3 bat lines being the most common occurrence, at least in the successful ECC list that we've seen just a few months ago. Here we're playing a 3-3-3, and there's a couple of reasons for this. Firstly, we just simply had to make space. Making space for the Mews and having an increased stadium count meant that we had to cut somewhere. So the bats were often, you can thin those out to make spaces. But really, in Theoremon, it also works with a thinner line, because in the past, we were trying to set up overrun damage into Assault Laser. Now we're setting up turn 1 Assault Laser into turn 2 Assault Laser. So the bats are really supplementary in terms of the late game push, rather than early and late game in the past, which is why you needed an even thicker bat line than now. So slightly less pressure on these bats to come out very early, but they're still essential for getting extra counters on in the slightly later game. So very, very good stuff here. It's going to help us pressurize non-EX decks like Night March, not only keep up, but at some points with the surprise bites and sneaky bites that we can drop with their abilities, we can overtake them in the prize race. With so many non-EXs at our disposal, even attacking with the bats is an option, because we are playing a full 4D Valley count. Skill Dive can often be used to snipe anywhere for 30, and even Swoop Across can be used for 10 to everything. Combining that with Sneaky Bite means we can kill Joltix, and sometimes even Feebas is played, even though there are puzzle builds floating around. Some people play the combination of both, so that they can just go really fast through their deck and not worry about resources too much at all. So we can punish those sorts of decks with bats very heavily. So still quite a thick line, but thinner than the past, because we don't need it as immediately as we used to. On to the trainers now. We are playing 1 Super Rod. There's almost a debate to play 2 of this, because we are playing a slightly thinner bat line, but they're still very important. We're only playing 2 Manectric. We're playing 3 Mew, which they get carved through pretty quickly because their HP is so low. So trying to recycle a lot of different Pokemon sometimes gets clunky for the Super Rod. There's a debate to play Sacred Ash, but because, again, our energy count is quite low, I like the versatility of Super Rod. I think it would be very crazy to play a 2 count of Rod, but at the same time, a lot of the times, this is super clutch, and if you lose the Super Rod very early, you're very strained on resources. So very important 1-of in the deck that could almost become a 2-of if we just had a little bit more space. So maybe a 3-3-2 bat line and then 2 Super Rod would be something that I've considered, but at the moment I'm sticking with just the pure bats and just the 1 Rod. A very important card. You could debate Ash, but the low energy count makes me think otherwise. Onto the Ball Search, we have 2 Level Ball. This was pretty staple in old Crobat builds anyway, to get early bats. Not only that, we can also grab Mew now as our quote-unquote main attacker. So yeah, Level Ball still gets good value. Pairing that with 4 Ultra Balls still. We want to have this still as our highest count because it gets us into Shaymin. Big consistency card. Ultra Ball still very clutch. Not really too many things we like to discard, but we can motor through the hands quite quickly if we need to, and just use that to grab resources. We are playing 4 Trainer's Mail. Big consistency card. This is becoming more and more of a factor in the majority of decks these days because it's just such a nice staple to have in almost anything, just to grab you whatever you need. 3 Super Scoop Up. I'd really like to have a 4th in here, but I think space just demands us to have 3. Again, cramming in these Mews and the highest stadium count really does take its toll on the deck. I think 3 Super Scoop Up is enough. Like I was saying, with a slightly thinner line, that in turn means that we have less reliance on the bats, so Super Scoop Up gets less value. Although this can also be used with Shaymin EX, and bear in mind it's our only trainer version of a switching card. We have AZ in here, but this might have to be used if we lead Miltank, which is pretty sad because it has a 2 retreat cost, which is kind of chunky. So yeah, just 3 Super Scoop Up. You could flip-flop this and mail. It's something I've been trying out. At the moment I've landed on mail just for consistency, but if you want to be a bit greedier, the 4th Super Scoop Up never goes amiss really. We are playing for VS Seeker. We have plenty of one-offs, as you can see, so VS Seekering back the ones we need is quite nice. We are playing 1 AZ. AZ is our guaranteed switching card against anything trying to Lysandre stall, or if we just have something like Miltank stuck in the active. Additionally, it can be used as like a Bianca if we combine it with Shaymin EX, and we can also use it to pick up bats and get extra damage on the board. So very nice card here. We are also playing 1 Lysandre. Lysandre is, again, it's a staple in most decks. I'd like to have space for a second because we can do so well at dealing with Shaymin EX's Assault Laser. If we're attacking with the Manectric, does it without a tool. Mew if we've attached a Headringer to a Mew to a Shaymin, and then we can attack. And even a Powerful Friends plus Crobat gets us there as well. So very easy to deal with Shaymins with this deck. So Lysandre often gets value. And just in general, because we can snipe around the board, we can take prizes in really weird and funky ways. So Lysandre gets big value. Would love to have 2, but again, space just demands 1. We are playing 1 Xerosic as well. Xerosic is a very versatile card. We all know that it can deal with a whole bunch of things. Specifically in this deck, we want to get rid of stuff like Fury Belt. One of the main reasons why Manectric Bats isn't seeing play at the moment is because Fury Belt skews the math that this deck used to hit really nicely. So Xerosic is definitely necessary to deal with Fury Belt in all forms, not just Night March, but EX decks and stuff like that. We want to get rid of those Fury Belts because they can be a pain. Also Garbodor. I know Garbodor's not huge right now, but there's a couple more ability-focused decks and ability-focused cards that might be making people want to play Garbodor all over again. Like Toad Garb might come back just because of the fear of stuff like the Carbink and the Marowak and even the Barbaracle. So people might be playing Garb again, and we need to have an option to deal with that, but so that our bats work and so that Mew functions. So Xerosic is also a nice one-off that's pretty clutch. We are playing 2N. We can be aggressive with this deck. You've seen that we can hit between 60 and 120 on the first turn if we go second with Mew. So that's not often one-hitting unless it's a non-EX. So N is normally going to get good value for us. It's a good combat card in just all sorts of situations, and it's also a good supporter to see in the early games. So very happy to see N return to the format and make all of these decks just a whole lot more consistent. Consistency is good. It means that you just have more games overall, and proper games where you just dead draw and just can do nothing for a couple of turns and lose. Having more consistency cards as good as N is good for the health of the game overall, in my opinion. Just because you're not dead drawing as much, because you just have better quality cards in your deck. And N is truly one of the best cards we've ever seen. So a couple of those, very, very good. VS Secretable when we need to have the disruptive factor in the later turns. We are playing 4 Sycamore. Sycamore's still the most powerful. Just dump and draw is pretty good. Flip-flop around with the N count. Personally, I'm happy at 4-2 at the moment. I could see a 3-3 split, even having a lower Sycamore count, because we are playing a thick stage 2 line, and dumping early parts of the back line can be awkward. Having to dump your Super Rod is really painful, so maybe flip-flop around with N. At the moment, I'm happier just with a high Sycamore count and the slightly lower N count. We are playing 4 D-Valley. I think it's super important to play 4. Just whiffing it makes you so sad. If you're committing energy to such a low HP Pokemon, you want to get the full value out. So you just need to hit these D-Valleys as often as possible. If you can't hit D-Valley, you may as well just be attaching to this guy because he has higher HP, so your energy will stick around a bit longer. So we need to always get value from Mew, which means we always need to play 4 D-Valley. Obviously it combos nicely with the bats as well. and just deals with any other sort of stadium in play, so pretty good stuff. We are playing 3 Muscle Band. Muscle Band has always been the math fixer for Manectric. It puts us into Assault Laser doing 140. 140 plus a Crobat gets us to hit 170, which is a lot of popular EX types. So yeah, 170 is good numbers. Muscle Band helps us get there. I don't think Fury Belt is necessary. 50 HP is so low. Fury Belting up to 90 still is pretty low. Anything that could hit 50 could basically hit 90 for the majority of the time. So I'm pretty certain that I don't want Fury Belt in here. Plus we can use Muscle Band on the Crobats as well if need be. So I'm happy with Muscle Band count overall. We are playing 2 Headringer, very important for sticking on things to increase our damage output. Obviously we can't do it on non-EXs, so that's where the deck sort of struggles, and that's where we really do rely on bat drops to increase our output. Stuff like Greninja can be awkward. Another reason for such a high stadium count is to get rid of Rough Seas from the Greninja player, because that really makes an awkward time of it. So we need to have a high stadium count, fairly high bat count, to keep pressuring decks that don't have the tools or we can't attach tools to. Against anything EX, slapping on Headringer is just so good. Limiting them from playing their own Fury Belt alone is really big. So it's like doing a minus 40 HP already, and then we're doing more damage, and they're having an extra energy attachment. It's just horrible on all accounts for them, really good for us. And it also stops Toad from Quaking Punching us on turn 1, which is also hilarious if we can get that on the board on the first turn. Headringer just poses a real threat to those sorts of decks. Finally, just the 7 Lightning. 8 used to be the norm for Manectric Bats decks, but now that we are using D-Valley and just single attachments for the most part on Mew, I felt happy enough going down to 7. Definitely with higher D-Valley count, we can rely much more on the bats without having to manually attach. So I think we can get away with the sneaky 7 count. Again, one of these things where I'd like it to be more, but making the space for Mew, we've had to make compromises. One of the energy count is where I decided to cut. Again, slight debate on Super Rod. Going down to 6 makes me think we'd never see the card enough, but we'd have more recycle of the energy overall, plus more recycle of Pokemon. Try it out as you like. I just don't like having 6 energy in a deck total where we don't have that much draw power. Although we have the Sycamores and the Shaymin, we have a slightly clunkier hand because we can have unplayable cards like higher evolutions and stuff. So just to see the card early enough, we want to have 7 as the lowest of the low point, I think, for this deck. But overall, because we are attaching less than we used to, I think we get away just about with 7. So that is the list, and we will hop into some games now and test out the deck. I think this is, from my early testing, this has really gained a lot from just the last couple of weeks and months, really. This deck has been a popular archetype once, it's really faded out of popularity, and hopefully Mew can burst it back into the top echelons once again. So we'll have a look. We're up against Chromosome, which is a pretty cool name. He's going to flip a coin, and we win the flip, so we get to go first here. Even though we can do so much damage on the first turn, we just want to set up, and that's normally the way with Pokemans. So we will lead Manectric. We have a pretty bad hand, but a couple of males could bail us out here. Looks like we're up against some other bat deck, which is going to be interesting. We don't have to fight for Dimension Valley, so that's a good thing that we can discard with Ultra Balls pretty early on. And I wonder what we're playing against. It could be a mirror match even. Wobbats, okay. Which is pretty bad for us. Luckily we top deck Sycamore. So we don't really have to worry about Ultra Balling into Mew, which would have into Shaymin, which would have been my other out to draw cards this turn, because my only other supporter was AZ. We're going to use a couple of Trainer's Mails. I'm going to choose to take nothing here because we'll be Sycamoring. So we're just going to get rid of the Headringers. It's a non-EX deck, so we can get rid of these. So it's actually very good that we got them in the opening hand here. And we only have 2 Zubat. So a 2-2-2 line makes me kind of happy that we can discard this Crobat. It's actually a really perfect opening hand to Sycamore away, to be honest. The Headringers are pretty dead, and so is that Crobat because of our prizes. And we can keep digging here with Trainer's Mail. We just hit an N, which I will be taking here. We can just attach and pass it over. I wonder if this deck is going to be playing Bursting Balloon. That could be an interesting thing that we have to play around. I think we saw Fighting Fury Belt in the opening mulligan though. So we see a D-Valley from our opponent. Attacking with Crobat is actually really good in this matchup because of the weakness. We see the Lysandre into Zubat. So clearly not wanting to get attacked here. Maybe he has quite a slow hand, threatening death basically next turn if he chooses to attach a tool. But no, we just see the Psychic Assault playing around the Manectric, of course. We will evolve up, and because it did the update, have to go through all of these options again. We will... he's got such a dead hand. I might even just hold this. Again, we'll retreat, and we'll just prod with Assault Laser, putting him down to 10 HP. And this is one of the issues that Wobbats has always had. Without your own Shaymins to draw cards because of Wobbuffet, they can often just struggle to set up themselves. We do see a Sycamore from the opponent though, as well as another Wobbuffet and a Trainer's Mail. Looks like he likely topped the Sycamore if he was happy to use Lysandre last turn. See Trainer's Mail for teammates, I believe. There's an energy to Wobbuffet, and just Psychic Assault for 10. So here we top deck Ultra Ball, which is pretty nice. I'm going to get rid of Sycamore and Super Scoop Up. We know that our opponent has teammates, so I want to be N-ing here for sure. I think I'm taking Crobat here. Crobat. Yeah, Crobat's perfect. We get a double KO with Crobat. And we'll play the N. No need to attach because we're going to have D-Valley the whole game. We get another Zubat, which is pretty cool. No need to search out anything else. We can't play the Shaymins because of Wobbuffet, so we can take our cheeky double prize here. Without the bats, this deck really has terrible output, so pretty good stuff for us here. We get a Golbat from the prizes, and a VS Seeker is also very handy. We have lots of goodies in there. So we see a Megaphone, followed by a Repeat Ball to find another Wobbuffet, I imagine. Well, it's his only option, so yeah, don't have to be a mind reader for that one. We see again an attachment of Special Energy. We could punish that with Xerosic. We see an Ultra Ball putting him down to one hand for just another Wob. Interesting. And Psychic Assault just for the 20. So we will play down the Golbat. We could pay retreat and kill with Crobat if we hit Muscle Band, but I don't think I'm digging this turn. I think this turn we can just Xerosic off the active's energy, because our opponent has a 1-card hand. And we'll just go for Assault Laser. Do we need to set up anything else? We don't get hurt by getting rid of these Ultra Balls at all. I might just get rid of one Shaymin as well. Keep the Ultra Ball around. I want to start setting up another Pokemon, that's the reason for this play. Even Miltank is really awkward. It's a lot of commitment for a non-EX for our opponent to deal with. As of right now, though, it's a sort of Lysandre target, so I might just take the Mew. It does have Psychic Weakness. Okay. Yeah, we'll take Miltank. I don't have to play it this turn, I'll just grab it. Even just getting rid of the dead cards is fine for now. And we'll pressure with Assault Laser. It again puts him in range if we find Muscle Band to do that, the overrun play once again. We do see a Zubat, and again the attachment of energy. We see a retreat. We're absolutely fine with this because we can still access it with a Crobat drop. So we'll bench the Miltank. I think I'm happy to just find Crobat here and then go for Sycamore. Alternative plays is to go for AZ. AZ gives us a 30 damage for the KO. Or we could take the 30 damage here and deal with a Zubat. I think I want to Ultra Ball because we might want to keep this VS Seeker for AZ. Or we Sycamore this turn and get VS Seeker for next turn. Yeah, that sounds fine. So Crobat's looking pretty good here. We'll grab Sycamore. We do hit Muscle Band as well. It's a really tempting card to take here. We'll find ourselves a Mew, I think. We want to have follow-up plays at some point, so... over on for 40, is that relevant? Or shall I save it for Crobat? I think I'll save it for Crobat. So we'll hold the Muscle Band. We do hit VS Seeker. That could be huge if we could AZ next turn. Oh wow, we can. That's pretty sick. We could also go for the Super Scoop Up play. Oh god, so brutal for him. Attacking with Mew, it's way more vulnerable. So we'll just start powering up the Miltank. We'll put the Muscle Band on and just skill dive the active. Another VS Seeker is pretty good. And our opponent scoops. Looks like he got a dead card from the top deck. So yeah, pretty good win. Let's jump into another game. Why not? We're just randomly getting some points and stuff. Who's in the chat? Wesley Melts. Oh, someone asking me for battles as per usual. I'll get back to him after the video, I promise. So yeah, we'll have one more game with the deck. That seemed pretty okay, but it was against a matchup we don't really expect to see much. So we'll see if Fire Sin has a different deck to challenge us here. First mulligan, we play 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 basics, so not overly common to mulligan, but it's always a possibility. Second mulligan, yuck. That would have been a horrible hand anyway. I'm happy to mull that away. And here we go, here's a more workable hand. We've started with Manectric both times. We're more likely to start with Mew, but there we go. We'll see what we're up against here. Our opponent gets a couple of extra cards to play with. If he chooses to take the mulligans, of course. And decides to bench Pokemon. Looks like we're up against Manectric Bats. What am I saying? We're up against Night March Vespiquen. We're playing Manectric Bats. Okay, this should be an interesting matchup. Compared to the old matchup, we have a lot more non-EXs, but also we're way weaker to Hex than we used to be, so it should be interesting to see how thick his Vespiquen line is, as well as also going to be a factor here. We can threaten a turn 1 KO, as long as he doesn't find Fighting Fury Belt. We see an Ultra Ball early on, getting rid of Lysandre and VS, just for a Shaymin. I wouldn't see any energy get committed is going to be an interesting decision here. Whoa, he committed to the active. That's so crazy. That's wild. It's very brave against a Manectric EX that can put in the damage early on. Very, very brave from our opponent there. We see another Battle Compressor finishing off the Lampants and also putting in teammates. There's the Dimension Valley, which makes all of ours dead now. And we see the Shaymin set up for some cards. We've gone against two decks that both play D-Valley. So it makes the 4 count look pretty silly. But there's quite a few decks out there that won't be playing D-Valley, I assure you. We see Trainer's Mail. He does find Fighting Fury Belt. So, bravery pays off for this guy. And is it going to be a pass? No, we still have more digging to go. It's Night March after all. We see Acrobat getting rid of a Shaymin, and then we see Town Map. There's a Fury Belt and a Hex in there. That's two very big things for us. Huge things. Another Acrobike. Getting rid of Ultra Ball. Puzzle of Time. Might be double puzzle here. For more shenanigans. Could be a Shaymin and a Battle Compressor maybe. Oh, just single puzzle. Wow. That's oh wow, we hit Xerosic off the top. I almost clicked Super Scoop Up. Oh, is Xerosic too ballsy here? Because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 6 Night Marches in the discard pile if we get the kill. Oh, it's so brave. This is... He has teammates as well. We have to bear that in mind. These things are always happening. So, Xerosic is so good here. So good for pressuring a Joltik, getting rid of a Night Marcher. He puzzled on its own, which really makes me think he's got a dead hand. You would not puzzle on your own if he had plays. Like if he had VS Seeker for teammates next turn, he would not have single puzzled. No way. Xerosic is so tempting, but it could lose us the game. This is pretty awkward. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Teammates, so 6 with the Joltik. 7, 8, 9 is enough. So if he teammates is for Compressor plus... Oh man, I think I need to end. I really don't want to, but I think I need to. Let's not lose the game in a couple of turns. It's too greedy, too greedy. We missed all Pokemon. Oh god. Why, game? Why punish me for the right moves? Damn. That's pretty bad. We play 6 Bulls and 10 more basic Pokemon. That is unheard of. So unlucky. And I bet we end him into a great hand as well. Pokemon, man. Why do we play this game? Never punished, bro. Double puzzle this time. Yep, end him into double puzzle. Seems good. Yep, GG, bro. Well done. This game, man. Normally not a salty player, but that was... pretty grim. Pretty grim when I wanted to show off this deck. Don't show something like that to the viewers. Pretty grim. GG, Night March. Feels bad, man. I'm gonna go cry. Maybe you'll see me again, maybe you won't. I might go into a spiraling depression now and become a recluse and never leave this room again. Cheers.